Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I am Gretchen Knowlton. I am the Manager of Planning, Advocacy, and Program Development at AgeGuide. And I am excited to share with you some tips and tricks on voting safely during a pandemic. Our goal this year is to flatten the election curve. And I'm going to be encouraging you to do a few things. So AgeGuide is doing voter advocacy this year in order to help ensure that all of our older adults in the community can safely participate in the November election. You have heard that elections are decided by the people who show up. In the United States, the oldest citizens are the most likely to cast their ballots, which gives them political clout beyond just their numbers alone. Some 64% of people age 65 and older voted in the November 2018 election, the best turnout of any age group. This year, things have gotten a little trickier for those who are older or who have underlying medical conditions because, as you know, they may not want to or it may not be advisable for them to go out. This year with the pandemic, voting advocates are encouraging people to flatten the curve by voting early. It's predicted that there will be record numbers of voting in this tight election race this year anyway. And in the midst of a pandemic, that could mean crowds, delays, frustration, and we want to help you to be able to avoid that. In order to flatten the curve, there's things we can all do to help the system to work smoothly and ensure that we don't overwhelm the voting system and that we can all vote safely and be counted in a timely manner. So that's what that's all about. Voting early can really help keep the lines down on election day and ensure that all voters can be tabulated. So let's talk about that. First, we're encouraging everyone to make a plan for how you want to vote in this election. Think about the 3 ways to vote that are here on the screen. You can vote by mail, you can vote early, and you can even still vote in person on election day. Which one is right for you? If you're going to vote by mail, how will you do that? You need to think that through a little bit. Are you going to use the Postal Service? Are you going to drop it in a box yourself? Are you going to have someone else drop it off for you? If you're going to choose to vote early, where will you vote? If you're voting in person, when do you plan to go? And do you know where to go? All things to think about in making your plan. And we'll talk more about each of these options. Again, if you're going to vote by mail, do you know how to do that? Do you know how to return your ballot after you get it? Now, you can mail it or you can even deliver it in person to the office of your local election authority, or in a lot of jurisdictions, you can drop it in a secure drop box. About half of Illinois election jurisdictions offer the Dropbox option. So check with the State Board of Elections website for an online list of Dropbox locations. And you can also go to this website that you see here on the screen, www.illinoisvoterguide.org, and that should make it easier for you to find all the information that you might need. Some key dates to keep in mind. Mail-in ballots need to be postmarked by Election Day. So we still have some time here, but the sooner you can get those in, the better. They need to be received by local officials within 2 weeks of the election, 2 weeks after the election. So that's why you need to have those in by Election Day. You can also submit your ballot by placing it in a secure drop box. As I've said, those are maintained by election officials and are very safe. And then you don't have to worry about whether it's in the mail or what happened to it. You can be sure that it is getting directly to the election authority. The other option that we talked about was early voting, and you have the option to vote early through November 2nd, the day before the election. If you haven't registered to vote, or you're not sure how to vote, or you know someone who maybe hasn't registered to vote, here's the lowdown on that. You can still register to vote in person now through Election Day. You need to do it in person at this point, and we're currently in an extended grace period for registering to vote, which means that you have to go to either your local election office, a permanent polling place, or an early voting site. There's even some polling places that allow you to register on Election Day. There may also be some other locations specifically designated for grace period voting by your election authority, so you can check that on this website on the screen at vote.org. So of course, voting day is Tuesday, November 3rd. The polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. You'll also be able to place mail-in ballots in those secure drop boxes at polling sites on Election Day. Again, I advise that you do it sooner, but if not, you can still vote with your mail-in ballot at a polling site on Election Day. So everything that you need to know about early voting and voting in person can be found here at this website, vote.org. There's even a polling place locator to help you figure out exactly where you need to go. And you should definitely check that, even if you usually go to the same polling place every year, because some polling sites have changed this year. In terms of safety and security, I know we all want to make sure that it's safe to vote and that our ballot is going to be secure and to be counted. Now, both vote by mail and early voting are very safe options in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, and we are really recommending that older adults choose one of those two options rather than voting in person on Election Day if possible. If you have concerns about your absentee ballot or your mail-in ballot being secure, I want to tell you a few things about how it works. The mail-in absentee ballots have a barcode that's unique to each voter. Included with your ballot are instructions to help you track that code, that unique code, as it travels through the state election system. So you can actually see when they receive your ballot and when your ballot is entered. You have to sign the outer envelope included with your ballot materials, and a panel of 3 election judges will compare that signature with the one your local election authority has on file for you, just like they do when you're on site. If there are questions about the signature or how the ballot is sealed, you will, as the voter, be notified. Many older adults really love to vote in person on Election Day, and they've done it that way for years. It's a tradition, and that's one nice thing about the drop boxes that will be there. If you really want to go to a polling place on Election Day, you can just walk in safely. You can have filled out your ballot from the safety of your own home, and then you still have that experience of placing it in the ballot box on Election Day in person if you want to do that. You can also choose to have someone else drop your ballot off for you in a drop box or at a polling place. If you're going to choose that option, there's a place on the back of your ballot envelope, your mail-in ballot envelope, where you will have to sign and put that person's name on it, the name of the person who's dropping the ballot off for you. Mail-in ballots can, like I said, be tracked online. So that's going to give you some peace of mind when you see that it's received. And if for some reason it's not received by Election Day, you always have the option of still then going to a polling place and making sure you cast your ballot. Early voting in this area, in all of the counties served by Age Guide, already started October 19th, and that information is available online through the county clerk's offices as far as where the polling sites are. So if you really want to vote in person, that's a safer option. Voting early is a safer option than battling the crowds on Election Day itself. We've heard that to avoid the crowds at early voting sites, the best time to go is in the afternoon. However, again, some people really want to vote in person on Election Day at their usual polling place, and you can still do that. We're told that there are very extensive cleaning protocols in Illinois for the voting locations where things will be wiped down and there will be masks and there will be distancing rules. But I do encourage you, if you're going to vote in person, whether early or on Election Day, that you take a sanitizing wipe in with you, that you have your hand sanitizer handy, because there will be a lot of surfaces and things that you need to touch in order to cast your ballot. finally, we've been advised that this is a tight election this year, both nationally and locally, and we should anticipate that it's going to take some time to count everyone's ballots. The election authority has 2 weeks to do that following the actual election day in any election, and absentee ballots and other ballots are being counted those whole 2 weeks. That happens normally. We just don't usually have to wait that long to hear the results. And we've gotten used to having our election results by 7 p.m. on election day. But we're supposed to spread the message this year that it is patriotic to be patient. And especially with so many mail-in ballots this year, we might need to expect it to take the whole 2 weeks following the election to get results. And that is simply democracy in action. I think especially some of our local election races could be very tight, and those election results may take a little bit longer. So that's all that I've got for you on voting safely this year. Thank you for listening, and I hope that you all go vote early and tell your friends and your family to vote early as well. Let's flatten the curve together. Thank you.